You want to know how to book more sales calls for your agency. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what we do to generate an average of 8 sales calls every single day through cold outreach alone. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what you need to do to be able to replicate the results that we're generating for ourselves. Now, before I jump in and share everything with you, we take a lot of time creating these videos, putting together what is gonna hopefully help you the best. All we ask in return is that you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to help the channel grow. And if you do get value from this video, please share it with somebody that you think will benefit as well. So if you follow what I'm about to share with you, this might sound bold, but I do guarantee that you will succeed. I guarantee it. There is not a shadow of doubt that if being the operative word here, if you follow what I say, you will succeed. But don't be that person that says they want to grow their agency, but isn't willing to roll up their sleeves and put in the work. And the reason I say this is because it does require work. It requires work from the business owner, and thinking that you can palm off this responsibility to somebody else is kind of naive. So this is going to be one of the most important things that you do in your business. So don't be afraid of committing to the process and committing to the work, because as I say, it does take work, but it is worth it. What would 2, 3, 4, 7, 8 sales calls a day be worth for you and your agency? And it does require work to be able to get there. So little kind of caveat before we jump in, but let's jump straight in. One thing that's really important to know is that cold outreach is all about cause and effect. Put more simply, it's about inputs and outputs. And with the beauty of cold outreach compared to, say, paid ads, is there's no algorithm getting involved. There's a very small amount of algorithm getting involved when it comes to deliverability, but take Facebook ads, for example, where you can have the same input and get completely different outputs, and that's because the algorithm is at play. With cold outreach, it's very clear that your outputs are determined by your inputs, and there's a direct correlation between the two. Now, where most people go wrong is that they don't see the outputs that they want, so then they look and they look at their inputs and they're not looking at them in the right detail. They're not understanding the interconnecting relationship between the inputs. So they see these outputs that they don't have or they don't like, which is a number of sales calls. And then they look at the inputs and they think, well, I got to change the inputs. But they're not knowing what inputs to change. They think they might know, but more often than not, if you're not getting the results that you want from your cold outreach, then ultimately you don't know what inputs need to be changed. So what we end up doing is we end up changing things that probably are working, and we leave things that aren't working, and then we try again and we become frustrated because the outputs aren't what we want, and we try again and again and again, and then we get fed up and we get bored and we throw cold outreach in the bin saying it doesn't work. Not only does not tracking the right inputs stop you from achieving the outputs at a very kind of short window, but it also stops it long term, because as human beings, unfortunately, emotion comes into play. We get bored, we get fed up, we get frustrated, and we stop trying because it no longer works or it never did work. When in reality, we basically just gave up because we didn't understand what inputs needs to change, or what inputs need changing. So the reason that we've been able to generate so many sales calls is because we're able to identify which inputs impact the output, which inputs are not working as well as we would like, and which inputs need changing in order to get a change in our outputs. Sounds very simple, and it is at some level, but it's also very difficult if you don't know what you're looking for and if you don't understand the relationship between all the connecting parts of your outreach. So the easiest way to explain it is through an example. So if we look at my screen, let's say we're running a email VSL funnel. So what we're doing here is we are sending somebody a cold email. We are asking them to click on a link in our email to send them to a landing page that has a video on it. And the whole objective of the video is to get them to book in a call. So the video, we're going to be talking about, who we are, what we do, how we help, and say book a call if this sounds of interest to you. What most people do is they'll run a email VSL campaign as an example. They will maybe track their open rates and they will track their number of calls booked. And then there's this whole kind of gray area that's happening in between somebody opening the email and somebody booking in a call. And if the number of sales calls booked isn't what you're after, you think, right, okay, well, what's the open rate? Well, people are opening the email, so must be something to do with the email. I'll change all of that. And then you change the email, you change the video, you change everything, and you start again. And then maybe you get the same problem, which is not enough sales calls. But what we need to be able to do is understand every single aspect of that process and track every single aspect of that process and be able to identify where the bottlenecks in that process lie. And we can only do that by, first of all, understanding what the steps are, understanding what inputs affect each step, and understanding whether or not these steps or these steps of that funnel are within KPI or not. And we only know if they're within KPI if we're actually setting KPI metrics to begin with, so we can understand whether or not a part of your process of email VSL funnel, for example, is actually working. So there's 6 steps when it comes to an email VSL funnel. And you can change this for whatever outreach campaign you're running. The process remains the same, but this is just a good example. First off, your email gets delivered. I mean, there's actually even more steps than this. There's like sourcing the leads, there's cleaning the leads, it's the origin of where we source the leads, lots of different things. But to keep it kind of slightly more relevant, we'll say that we've already got the leads, they've been cleaned, they're from a reputable source, etc., etc. So email gets delivered, then the email gets opened. After the email gets delivered and the email gets opened, then the email gets read, and then the video gets clicked, and then the video gets watched, and then the call gets booked. And most people will track email gets opened and call gets booked. And then if something goes wrong, if the output isn't what you were expecting or what you were wanting, you look at that one input, which is emails get opened, and then you're like, okay, I need to change something. And you change a bunch of stuff. And you end up changing lots of things, and you don't know if, like, when you run your next campaign, you don't know if what you've changed is impacting the results or not. And you're just left completely in the dark as to how the campaign's actually performing. And you don't know whether you're actually making any progress or not. You've only got one metric which determines if you're making progress, which is sales calls being booked. And we want many more than just one metric.
Hey, just real quick, sorry to interrupt the video, but I just wanted to let you know of our brand new free course that we have just launched that takes you through how to book more appointments on your sales calendar through cold email. The course is completely free, comes with a free community as well, where there's live calls where you can ask me anything, get your questions answered. The second link in the description is going to take you to the free course, as I say, completely free, and it's going to walk you through how to get success from your cold email campaigns. So I will leave it there and enjoy the rest of the video.
When it comes to emails getting delivered, there's multiple inputs that impact that metric. So if an email gets delivered, what impacts an email getting delivered? We've got the TLD, or the top level domain. Are you sending your emails from a domain that is reputable? Are you sending them from a reputable email service provider? Are you sending the right amount of volume from each email address? Is the content of your email harming your deliverability? Have you got lots of spam keywords in there? Has your warm-up of your email addresses been effective? What we need to do is not just say, yeah, I think my TLD is, my top level domain is okay, my email service provider is okay, I'm sending the right amount of volume, so I think I'm okay there, I'll tick that box and move on. We need to track. We need to know that every email address that we are using in our cold campaigns, we need to track what the top level domain is. We need to track what email service provider we're using. How many emails are we sending? Has the content gone through an email spam keyword tool? Have we gone through a warm-up? If so, what warm-up? How long was it for? And then we can, over time, when we're doing this with lots of different email addresses, we can track and we can see, well, the deliverability of these 20 email addresses is quite good, and these 7 email addresses, the deliverability isn't good. What's the difference between them? If I increase the volume of the number of emails that I send, do they still get delivered? Do they not get delivered? What's the optimum number of email addresses I should be contacting from each sending email address? At a high level, all of this comes down to tracking. If we don't know every single detail about the funnel that we're running, we're never going to know what inputs need to be changed in order to get a different output. We're just throwing darts in the dark and hoping something that sticks. And invariably it doesn't, because we change things that work, we don't change things that don't work, and human nature gets involved. We get frustrated, we get bored, we get tired, we get fed up of spending money, spending time, spending energy, and we throw it in the bin, and we shouldn't, because it does work very well. And then, right, your email gets opened. What inputs impact your email getting opened? We have the subject line, we have the timing. When are we reaching this individual prospect? What time of day? What's the from name of the email address? What's the email pre-header? So the bit that people can read after the subject line when it's sat in their inbox. We need to track these things, because if we track it and we test multiple different variations of this across different email addresses, we can see that this subject line outperforms this subject line. We can see that the reason my emails aren't getting opened is because I'm using this subject line, or the email pre-header isn't as exciting as it could be. Let's test different email pre-headers and see which one outperforms the other. We need to put on our kind of scientist hat here and test different hypotheses, test different scenarios across different email addresses that we're sending from. And as I say, it's all about inputs and outputs, and it's about understanding the system and systems thinking. And when you understand the interconnecting parts between each individual funnel, you can see what things need to be changed, what inputs need to be changed and swapped out for something else to get the output that you want. So next, once an email's been delivered, it then gets opened, and then the email gets read. How do we ensure that the email gets read? Well, we have maybe an opening sentence that grabs somebody's attention, piques curiosity or intrigue, and makes them want to read the second sentence. The body copy. So what are we actually saying in our email? What is the offer? Maybe we run different campaigns from different email addresses. Everything is exactly the same, but we change the opening sentence to see which one works the best, or we change the offer, see which one works the best. That's going to give us clarity into which of those variations of that input is going to work the best to give us the best possible chance of achieving the desired output that we want, which is sales calls. Video gets clicked. So how do we make sure that the video gets clicked? Well, that's going to be the email copy again. It's going to be the offer. It's going to be the thumbnail of the video maybe, or the link that we put in. Maybe we put in our actual URL of our website, or maybe we put click here to view the video and we make that a clickable link. Which one works better? Again, we've got to test every little thing and be able to track everything and understand how it impacts the performance of the campaign. Once the video gets clicked, then the video needs to get watched. How do we make sure that the video gets watched? Well, we've got to think about our energy. If we start, running a campaign and we get somebody to watch the video and then the video is like this and it's boring and nobody's going to watch it. So we need to make sure that the energy is nice and high on the video. What's the video script? Is the video script enticing? Are you showing a good understanding of your niche? Are you using industry keywords that make people understand that you understand them and their industry? What is your offer? Is it exciting? Is it enticing? Is it actually what somebody wants? What's the professionalism of the video? Is it too professional that it makes it look not personalized? Is it not professional enough? We can test different variations of the video as well. Once somebody watches that video, they then need to book a call. What inputs are going to impact somebody booking a call? Well, we've got the calendar configuration, we've got the availability, we've got the landing page maybe. Is it on a crappy landing page? Is it on a great landing page? What does that look like? Are there testimonials underneath the calendar? Are there no testimonials? Testing different things. Only when we look at a campaign and we understand all the elements of the campaign, and then we track the elements, we have to set KPIs for all of these different metrics here. And then if a step or a part of this process is outside of KPI, that's great, because we know that that's not the right input moving forward. So now we need to test a different input. The key here is to only test one thing at a time. If you test two things at the same time and it doesn't work, you don't know whether it was because one of the elements didn't work, one of the new inputs didn't work, or the other input didn't work, or maybe both didn't work. You're no further forward. So you have to take a slow, methodical, very boring, very frustrating approach to your outreach. It is all about systems thinking, as opposed to just throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. And we also need to understand the interconnecting relationships between each part of the process. So for example, if your email isn't getting opened, well, that's obviously closely linked to your email maybe not getting delivered. If your video is not getting clicked, it's because your email is probably not getting read. So how can we try and improve both the video getting clicked metric and the email getting read metric? Well, probably the best place to start is going to be your offer, because if somebody's excited to find out more about your offer, they're more likely to read the email in the first place and click the video and watch the video and book in a call, all that stuff. So we need to understand how each element works with one another. So that's what we do with our cold outreach. We track everything down to the most minutiae of detail, because we want to understand what inputs affect the output. And we want to make sure that the inputs are the best they possibly can be to give us the best possible output, which is more sales calls. Now, all of this comes with a slight caveat in the fact that if you have something that is working, you don't need to continually tweak and play and change and mess with it. You just need to add more volume. One of my clients recently asked, when do I know that I should just do more volume and not mess around and try and improve the conversion rate? Because if I can improve the conversion rate, then maybe I could double my sales calls from the same effort. And while that is true, you might want to keep a couple of email addresses, a few small campaigns where you're doing you're experimenting with different inputs to get different outputs. You want to put the bulk of your energy, your email addresses that you're sending from, whatever it may be, the bulk of your activity into just volume and just scaling something that already works. So don't get too carried away and try and create the perfect thing. It just needs to be within KPI. What is within KPI? That is for you to decide as opposed to me, what works for you. But there we have it. That is how we ensure that we get a minimum of 8 sales calls every single day on our calendar through cold outreach. It's through very, very simple tracking, understanding that our outputs are purely determined by our inputs. When we understand that and we're able to track our inputs in excruciating detail, we get the outputs that we want. If you've got value from this video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, help the channel grow, and I will see you on the next one.